Good evening, and welcome to Drie Bokke, a ball and BlitzBOD. Another fascinating show for you again tonight. We are hitting the jackpot every week at the moment with our guests, and tonight is no exception to that. And we've listened to the public, we've listened to the people. They've been baying for this guest co-host to come back, Mr. Reenen Stenekamp. How are you, sir?
Evening, Andrew. Evening, everybody. No, I'm fine. It's just very, very cold here in the Free State, but as you can see, we're surviving somehow. Eh? But thanks for having me on, and thanks everybody for tuning in.
Yeah, mate. Layers, mate. Layers. You've got to do layers. I'm from the UK. Layers. So that's good advice. And firstly, let's just say thank you to Workshop 17 again for very proudly supporting us. I'm sat inside one as usual here in Paarl. There's a couple in Cape Town that you should check out, and there's a couple in Sandton and Pretoria that you should definitely look at as well. Co-working space is the way forward for sure. Anyway, let's get some guests on. My first guest, or our first guest, should I say, is also hails from Paarl. He has previously captained SA schools. He has previously captained SA under-20s. He is touted for very, very, very big things. He comes from amazing stock with an amazing family history of rugby. So please welcome to the show, Salman Murat.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, guys. Thank you for having me.
Hey, yeah, great to have you on. Reenen, who else have you got tonight, mate?
Looking forward to some good chats, guys.
We try.
You, Salman. Yes, we've also got a very, very exciting fullback who played some top-level varsity cup, Super Rugby, Pro 14 Rugby. This guy cannot be stopped. His name is Reenen Stenekamp.
Hello, guys. Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Reeno. Good. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for giving your time up tonight, gents. We always like to start at the beginning with our guests, mainly because we have a global audience of millions, obviously. So people in South Africa obviously know who you guys are, but we like to get to know you and make sure that everyone around the world knows. Salman, we like to say, where did it start? Where did rugby start for you? Salman, you come from an incredible rugby history as a family. I imagine you were born with a rugby ball in your hand and you didn't have too much choice about that. But where did rugby start for you? I sort of envisaged your childhood being dragged around to Vineyards Rugby Club every week and watching most of your family tear it up.
Yeah, I think like you mentioned now, I grew up in a family that loves rugby. Within saying that, I didn't need much introduction to the game. I grew up, like you said, next to the field. I really enjoyed spending most of my weekends at the club rugby games, and that's where my rugby basically started. I started playing junior rugby for the club because my primary school we weren't known for rugby or having any rugby teams for that matter. So I had to go out and find a local rugby club, and luckily my family was part of the Vineyards Rugby Club, and that's why I started my rugby. I started playing age group rugby under 13 for them. And then luckily one day I was sent to Boland trials, and that's where things started kicking off. I got selected for the Boland under 13 Currie week, and then I got a scholarship to attend Paarl Boys Eye, and that's basically where I started. I started off as a raw talent, and that's where I got the proper coaching, and I thoroughly enjoyed my high school career. Thankfully to good coaches and some good people in my corner, I could make a success of my schooling career.
Awesome. Reeno?
My story is a little bit more complicated. I grew up passionate about all sport. My dad's a big sports fan, South Africa in particular. Grew up supporting the Stormers big time, season ticket holders and the whole lot. And always played, like I said, most sports at primary school. Pretty decent at them, but never the best at anything. So Also went to Paarl Boys High. I got there under 14. I ended up playing under 14D. So that was a bit of a shock to the system. And one night my dad just kind of sat me down and he was like, look, you come from training and you're super depressed and stuff and you feel sorry for yourself. And either you make peace with playing under 14D or you try to improve and get better. And then you don't have to face that lot. And I don't know, something about the brutal honesty and I guess my love for the game. I kind of just, I think continuously improved is the best way to describe my high school career. And so fortunately, I was able to climb the ranks and I ended up playing first team in my matric year. Still one of the greatest achievements of my life, to be fair. And yeah, I guess the rest is history. Same, I got a bursary to go to Northwest University, and from there I was fortunate. I wasn't in the varsity cup squad, but then Coach Rob saw me playing sevens for our the varsity sevens team, and he gave me a call up from there. And like I say, I was surrounded by incredible players, the likes of Akker van Merwe, Sylvian Mahuza, long list of guys, Johan Duisel, that went on to play international and provincial rugby, and I had incredible coaches along my path as well. So a guy like James Small, the influence he had on my career, I can never say it enough. I owe him so much, and it's just been an incredible journey to where I am here today. So yeah.
Good stuff.
Someone tell me, obviously, I mean, I'm wearing it proudly. I'm unashamed about it. The support that you received back then, but more importantly today, as a professional rugby player, the support that you received from the Boys Eye family and from your friends from back then, specifically our friends at Septimus Feet. Can you please? Can you tell us what is this mean? Kry vir die kinders koeldrank kanala. What's that all about?
Okay, back then, my friends on a weekend, then I would have a couple of friends over to come stay by our house, and that's how that whole thing started. My mom would insist that I should, because I'm Muslim and my mother's Muslim, that's Kanala is just a phrase used as please. So my mom would always insist, please go and get them some cool drink, or you know how it goes with when you have guests over. So that's just how that whole phrase started with Sebastian, actually, for that matter. Yeah, it was great times, and definitely friendships that I still have up till today, and that I'm really grateful for.
You know, Sebastian's dad, Mona. Every year when I go down for inter-schools, I stay with him. We were at school together. You know, it's just an unwritten thing. It just happens that way. Reino, what support? You know, your Boys Eye friends, etc. How's it playing out for you?
Look, the same. I left Paarl immediately after school. I went to study in Port, as I said, and there was one or two Boys Eyes roaming around there, and you find them, you link up again. To be fair, most of my friendships kind of, just because of the geography involved with it, kind of stopped. But you always get messages, inboxes, and so on, just oaks that are rooting for you and saying, man, I'm so proud of you and what you've done. Who would have thought? And for me, that's awesome. That's the day one people that supported you back, as I say, under 14D, the guys that were there playing with me. I often get messages from my under 14D team, guys saying, I'm the reason you made it, whatever. So it's just cool to have that camaraderie that just lasts your lifetime.
Fantastic. Andrew?
Yeah, so moving on now, obviously you're both flourishing, and Reino, you've done some BlitzBOD. We'll get onto that in a minute. But Salman, how's life at the Stormers at the moment? You're obviously happy to be back in training. How was the lockdown for you? You obviously managed to stay fit and well, and how's you and the team progressing in training at the moment?
I think before the lockdown, I think we as a team we were in a good space. I think we won about 5 out of our 6 games. Unfortunately, 4 out of our 6 games, we unfortunately came short against the Sharks and the Blues. So overall, I thought we were having a solid season. Unfortunately, with the lockdown, things all had to come to an end. But within saying that, I think that, you know, the lockdown has just given us a greater sense of appreciation for the game. I think the boys are back now. They're really eager. Training's been going really well. We're slowly incorporating some contact training, obviously running a lot more than usual just to build that base. But overall, it's been really good. As I mentioned earlier, we're working towards mid-September for playing dates. So yeah, hopefully we can start playing and getting onto the field.
Yeah, and for you personally, obviously breaking into that team at such a young age, and you've experienced so much because you've captained SA schools. There's been a lot of talk about you being the next big thing, which I'm sure you try and stay away from as much as possible. But one of the big talking points around you at the moment is your long-term position. You're obviously playing in the second row. It probably doesn't help that you got the Springbok captain and the World Player of the Year playing in the back row. Is this where do you see yourself? And B, because a lot of people believe that the back row may be your position. No one knows this better than you and your coaches. But do you have conversations like that, or are you just concentrating on being in the dungeon in the second row at the moment?
I think there has been a slight talk about it, but at the moment I am enjoying the second row. Obviously this year I got a lot more opportunities, and like generally I felt it went well this year. I've been playing consistently, and I'm slowly starting to make the position my own. So for now, I feel that I will stick to the second row. You never know what happens later in my career, but for now, I just want to kind of perfect that position of mine and make it my own and just develop into the position, because I do feel that it's a position that brings out the best in me, and I feel I can thrive there.
Reeno, and here in the Free State, how's it going with the training now, and you know, in the team in general, and the second part of my question, if you look at a guy like Frans Steyn, who's now back with us after being away for so long, but be that as it may, you know, the experience that he brings and the presence that guy will have in our backline. Ruan Pienaar speaks for himself. You must be chopping at the bit to be cutting into that backline right next to a guy like Frans Steyn. I mean, that must be a dream come true.
Yeah, and I'll somehow start with that. I do think so. I think it's first and foremost, I'll say that just having world-class players in and around the same team that you are in is what a privileged position. At any given time, it was so weird. I roomed with Ruan Pienaar on tour for most of our tours last year, and so when the World Cup final was happening, we were rooming together. We woke up on the morning of the World Cup final, and he could walk me through 2007's World Cup when he was on the bench, and like just the archive of memories and experiences and things that he's got is something I'd never get tired of, although he hates speaking about himself so much. But just from a place of on the field, 10 points, 15 points behind or ahead, the reality is he's been there before and he knows how to get out of that position or further that position, depending on if you're ahead or behind. And that's something that's going to be invaluable for us moving forward. A guy like Frans as well, perhaps, yeah, not as fast as he was. He's not going to probably end up on the wing anymore. But what he does bring is a cool head. He's got still this ability, although he's perhaps not moving as fast as he used to. He's got this ability to beat guys, read the game seemingly in slow motion and pick the right options. Same with Ruan. So if I do get the opportunity to play in the same team or like be on the field at the same time as them, there are certainly players that you can look at to run off them, find space next to them, because Frans has that ability that he's just drawing attention, and that will definitely open up space for some of us out wide. furthermore, yeah, it's been tough. As Salman says, you do put in quite a bit of running when there's no balls involved. So it's been tough to get through all of that. Slowly integrating back into team-orientated training. In particular now with the bags and things where we're allowed to tackle bags. So until SA Rugby, to my knowledge, gives us the full clearance so that we can actually tackle one another and so on. So yeah, maybe SA Rugby is making a strategic move there in giving us a bit of time, because energy levels are incredibly high right now, and maybe they're trying to avoid injuries. But for now, we're just enjoying being back and working really hard towards mid-September, where we hopefully get to have a full run.
Yeah, I think I think what you mentioned there is really interesting around Frans Steyn having ruined Pienaar. I sort of remember that performance from Pienaar last year in the Currie Cup against the Sharks.
Oh,
Epitomising exactly what you're saying. But Salman, you're obviously also surrounded by world-class players, people that have been there, done it. You, to a degree, so far, you're probably pinching yourself at how it's all just developed through the age groups and where you are now. But just give us a bit of an insight of what it's like to be around, especially as a lot of the guys are forwards that obviously won the World Cup. We had Stephen Kitsoff and Bongi on a couple of weeks ago, and that was brilliant. But what's it like for you to have those people around you to probably? I know you're a very humble guy, but just keep you in check. We all make mistakes. We all have youthful exuberance. But what's it like having those guys around you? Do they pull you to one side? Do you seek advice from them? I mean, perfect scenario for you, surely.
Yeah, like Reino mentioned, I think just the value that they bring to the team is invaluable. The calm heads that they bring, I think they've seen it all. And for us as youngsters or relative youngsters within the team, I think these are the type of players that you want to surround yourself with, especially while you're at this stage in your career where you want to develop and hopefully make a great success out of your career. I think just the experience that they're bringing, and I think the coaching that they had now during the World Cup, I think it was very evident that just the way they went about the game, the technical side of the game. I think a lot of people regarded it as it might have been boring, but I think just that patience that they gathered through the World Cup, and they bring it back into the Stormers team. I think that's really invaluable. And then again, I think the coaches that we have at the moment, I think a guy like Brendan Venter, which was relatively new in the squad, I think he's going to bring another edge to the team, and something that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, he definitely will bring an edge. There's no two ways about that.
Sure. Sorry, Andy, you can go.
No, it's all good. Reino, your game, obviously playing fullback, bit of time on the wing, bit of sevens. Are you settled now? Are you happy with where you are? Are you still chasing the sevens dream, or are you just focusing on the 15s now moving forward?
Look, my time at the sevens was, truthfully, I said playing first team for boys, I was one of my highlights of my career and will continue to be. But man, my time at the sevens was without a doubt highlights and lowlights in 6 months. It was an incredible journey. I saw so many different countries. I enjoyed traveling so much. But we trained so hard. It cannot be said enough. I have utmost respect for this BlitzBOD system, and I appreciate so much that I was there. I think they are better off without me, and I am really happy where I am. They have incredible sweepers, guys that play in my position, so they are not worse off without me. And in fairness, I think I'm a better 15s player than I am a 7s player. So for me, I'm happy where I am. Obviously, I'm first and foremost, I see myself as a 15, but I'd rather play wing than sit on the bench or not play at all. And since there are quality 15s here, a guy like Blommetjies, guy like Malcolm Jaw, Tapiwa Mafura, so there's quality guys here, and I'm happy to play second fiddle to a guy who's earned a spot ahead of me, and if he's on form and coach wants to back him, who am I to fight that? I just need to be the best, whatever I'm picked as at that time. So yeah, I'm happy in Bloemfontein. We love the people here. I'm enjoying playing pro rugby so much, and I'm really looking forward to Currie Cup. The Cheetahs have a proud history in Currie Cup, and obviously defending champs. So definitely a lot to look forward to there, and yeah, enough to keep me busy with. So no immediate dreams to head back to Stellenbosch now.
If I can just add, yeah, Rhino, I remember when you came into the system, when you came from the Sharks, I was really thinking to myself, what the hell are they going to do at 15? Because they've got Blommetjies and they've got Reino Smith, and who are they going to play? Because that must be a serious headache for the coach. But then they moved Clayton to the wing, where he actually did very well. He's such a versatile player. I guess you're not at liberty to answer this, so I'll just put it as a rhetorical question. But I can see that system continuing now with because you cannot have both. You cannot not have both of you on the field. That's how I see it anyway. So I can see Blommetjies at 11 and shine from there. Anyway, I just wanted to add that, Andrew, sorry for that, but I felt it needed to be said that the way these two players complement each other, it's unbelievable. It's something to behold, really.
You can't move the top scorer in the Pro 14, can you? If he's doing
there's no way you can do that.
Just quickly, there's a question from Nigel that's come in, and probably something that we'll elaborate on after. I think no matter what happens with the SA teams, Cheetahs should remain in the Pro 14 and have earned that right. What for do you think? We don't have to put Salman on the spot here, but we can certainly put everyone else on the spot. Reino, there's obviously quite a bit of rumour flying around at the moment with what's going to happen. It's all completely out of everyone's control that's on this screen at the moment. But what's the thoughts in the camp? Is anyone actually even worried? Is it going to happen, or are people actually going, come on, we've flown the flag for SA up here, up north, for a few years now, and if we were to get ditched, it would be fairly harsh, wouldn't it?
I think if anyone, it would be ignorant for anyone to say that they are not concerned with that it's even a rumor at this point. That's my first point. I do think that logistically it's difficult. There's a lot that this whole thing would have been so much easier if South Africa was where Morocco is on the African continent. But the reality is it's not, and we've somehow made it work across the board. UK teams have made it work coming here. We've made it work going there. And in fairness, it's much tougher on us than it is on them because we have to travel more. So if anyone's short-handed, it's us. I do think as well that that, as you said, perhaps, let's say 3 years ago, in the beginning of pro rugby, when the Cheetahs were really struggling, so they made the playoffs the first time that they were in, and then they lost a host of guys, and then they really battled through like a period of rebuilding. And I genuinely think we were on the cusp of doing something incredible this year. We started really well. Granted, there were a lot of players at the World Cup from visiting teams in particular, but we showed that we toured better, and it was one decision here, one mistake here, a bit of discipline here, and we could have taken 2 more scalps on tour. Who knows? And then we'd be in a very different position. And the last point that I'd make is just we had 7 games left, I think, of which 6 were home games. And we were unbeaten at this point at home, scoring 40+ points week in, week out at home. So I just think it, as you said, above all else, given the season we'd had, our last season, which is how we should be remembered, is it would be harsh for us to be cut now. In a perfect scenario, all 6 South African teams stay in pro rugby. It makes tours slightly more manageable straight across the board because European teams can come and stay longer. So jet lag and that stuff's not an issue. Our tours going there will kind of be what it is now, and more to the point, we get to compete against the top 4 unions in South Africa. And that means that guys like Joseph Dweba don't have to leave South Africa in pursuit of higher honors. You know what I mean? Joseph's been knocking at the door, and granted, there's quality players at the box now in the hooker position, but he's not even been invited to a camp. A guy like Rabs Makwane surely equal the top try scoring record in Pro 14, doesn't get a look. And again, I understand we've got the likes of Mapimpi, Cheslin. So, but we are not viewed, the Cheetahs are not viewed on the same platform or on the same level as the Super Rugby unions, just because we're playing in a different competition. And I think the best way is to put us all in one competition, or a very close second prize would be we play Currie Cup and the top 4 teams of the Currie Cup qualifies for Pro Rugby. I think that'll put more on the line. It'll make Currie Cup that much more interesting. All the Springboks allowed to play. If we lose, we're happy to say, you know what, the top 4 teams are playing in Pro Rugby. But if that decision is made behind closed doors by directors and suits, then it becomes very difficult for us to just take it and move on with our lives.
And it's interesting you mentioned that players who are playing in the Pro 14 and potentially not getting the same opportunities as those playing in Super Rugby, but you've played in both now. Obviously, completely different ball game going to Connacht on a freezing cold Sunday. I get it, and it's hammering down. But is there really that big a difference in quality? And you've played against both. You played against obviously Kiwi teams, Australian teams. Is it just as hard in the Pro 14? Where's the standard compared between the two as a league as a whole?
So I will say I've never played a Kiwi team. Somehow my Super Rugby career just turned out like that. Never played one Kiwi team. But I did play a few Australian teams, and I played quite a few derbies. And for one, the derbies are pretty physical in South Africa. I remember the Stormers, my last Super Rugby game in South Africa. We played the Stormers last year. Man, it was a tough game. We ended up, Lucanio Am scored a try late to win the game. And it was like just one of those games. I had to go to a wedding afterwards, and I was knackered. I was done. My body was I just wanted to go to sleep. And that's how Pro Rugby feels every weekend. And the Cheetahs play a brand of rugby where we're moving the ball and we're trying to run oaks off their feet. But the reality is, when a guy gets a hold of you, he gets a hold of you. Oaks are weighing, I think, 5 to 10 kilograms more, maybe slightly less mobile, but their systems feel really strong for me. Or I would venture to say feel slightly stronger. In Super Rugby, it feels very much like individual brilliance is what breaks the game open. A guy like Damian Willemse gets the ball and he steps 5 oaks, and then from there, the gala is on. Then you're playing with a team on the back foot. In Pro Rugby, it feels more like you're weighing guys down with your system against their system. First one to flinch loses. And and so it is difficult to compare the two. And especially Super Rugby is really all that we've known since the game turned pro in South Africa. So you can understand why the public have that opinion. I think personally that a guy like Coach Rassi has a higher view of Pro Rugby than he's letting on, because he's coached in the league and he'll know what quality sits there. That's what I'm saying. I think it's a matter of time. I think that the best thing that could happen to South African rugby is that 5 or 6 of our teams are playing in the same competition. Guys are competing for Springbok selection in one competition. Guys are competing to be the best union in South Africa from one competition. And then it's apples against apples, and then best man wins.
Yeah. Salman, do you fancy testing yourself up north? I mean, with the Stormers now, I'm not trying to start rumours. But do you... I mean, obviously, I think when we had Stephen Kitsoff on and Bongi, they said some of the memories of like going out in Wellington after the games and stuff, as well as obviously playing rugby down against them. But obviously, life experiences you can get them sort of by travelling up north. What's the feeling inside the Stormers squad and your own personal feeling? Do you fancy going north and testing against Leinster, or Are we all good in Super Rugby, and let's all just carry on the way we were?
I think as Reeno mentioned, I think one definite thing is the rugby will change. The style of rugby will change, and for a lot of the guys, that's pretty much the biggest letdown, I guess. I won't say letdown, but I think we all know the type of rugby that the North plays, and it's just like Reino mentioned. I think the difference in styles are that I feel up north it's a lot more structured. The teams up north have got a very good set piece, good scrum, and it's basically about tiring out the opposition. Whereas the Super Rugby would be a much more flamboyant, a much more exciting brand of rugby. But at the end of the day, it's an exciting challenge, I guess. So for a lot of the players, the boys are looking forward to a new competition. Obviously, as you mentioned, there is the heartache of not playing against New Zealand teams or Australian teams. But I think the challenge that lies ahead with playing against the northern teams is really invaluable. And for us as rugby players, at the end of the day, that's all you want. You kind of want to test yourself against some of the best opposition in the world, and especially the north.
I've seen it with the Cheetahs in the Currie Cup, especially in the last season. and sorry, Reino, it is at the expense of the Sharks, but I'm dead serious. But the Western Province team that the Cheetahs played just before the semis, the quality of that side, the quality of the Sharks in the semi-final, and the quality of the Lions in the final, those were very, very, very close to full-strength Super Rugby teams. And they couldn't handle us. I'm not being arrogant. They couldn't handle us. We played brilliantly. And like Salman said, and he's 100% correct, the breaking down of the opposition, your defense doing that, breaking them down, and knowing when to strike. You don't see that in Super Rugby, ever. You see that in Pro 14 Rugby. You see it in Europe, and we've begun to see it now with the Cheetahs in the Currie Cup in South Africa. And Salman, you will experience this as time goes on with the Stormers, how your game will be enriched in that sense. It is only to the good of these teams to move north. There's no question about this.
Fantastic. Right, let's take a small breather here. Some people, some amazing comments. One that Salman will definitely recognise. If we can bring up Mr. Sean Erasmus is watching tonight. Obviously, ex-Boys High now with the Lions. Good evening to you, Sean. It's great to hear from you and know that you're watching. That your name is certainly in the history books in this town. And there was another question there from Catherine. If you could bring that up, please, Joe. Question for Reino and Salman. How are their local grassroots clubs coping during the COVID crisis? That's actually a superb question, and one that we should be asking in pretty much every rugby, well, not pretty much, every rugby country in the world. Salman, your family are obviously very close to grassroots rugby. How's the landscape looking at the moment? Although these clubs are amateur, it always takes money to get people on the field. Just to cut the grass costs money, doesn't it? So has anyone got any insight into how grassroots rugby is moving along?
Yeah, I think this time is obviously a very difficult time for us all. I think one good thing that I feel that the unions are doing, especially us, we try give back to the communities, especially the club rugby teams. Last week Saturday we had an outreach program or charity program at the stadium where we donated ingredients as well as fruit and veg to the local clubs, just so that they, obviously these players, a lot of them depend on their club for some sort of nutrition on a Saturday. It's not just about playing for them. It's about it's a massive occasion for these players. They go out on a Saturday. They get to mix with families, and at the end of the day, the club provides a lot more than just a game on a Saturday. So I feel, in that sense, I feel the union has been doing really well to give back to the clubs. And obviously, hopefully, as soon as we can get on the field, we hope that they can start playing some rugby as well.
Yeah. And Reeno, the Cheetahs are involved in anything similar?
Yeah, in particular, they've climbed on board with a non-profit that Craig Barry is I actually don't know exactly what his role is. Be the Difference Foundation, and they are doing a lot of good work. And right throughout lockdown, they've been handing out food, and it's been incredible the response that they've received. And by extension, then the Cheetahs climbed on board, and then so many people, sponsors, companies just want to be a part of helping changing people's circumstances. So it's been incredible what they've been able to do, and just the relationships they build. And Craig Barry and his wife, they're just running it. They've just taken it like champions. They go there, they remember some of the kids by name, and you can just see that the joy that they bring and the change that they're making. So you just want to encourage people that are doing that kind of stuff to just keep going with it. COVID's not something that's going to release its grip on our economy or on the people very quickly. So people still need our support, even though we're going lockdown level 2. It doesn't change much to many people's circumstances.
I think it's worth saying.
If I could just add here, Andrew, it's unbelievable what Craig has been doing. You know, he's been so visible. He's been managing it so well. On social media, the local newspapers have also covered it on their Facebook pages, on their Twitter feeds, etc. He's been all over the place. It's amazing what this guy has done. I can only speak highly of him.
Yeah,
and his wife, obviously.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting something here, that it's actually very difficult to run an MPO in this country. I listened to Brian Habana not that long ago, and listen, seriously, if anybody's watching this that wants to partner with any of these rugby players, then get in contact with them. Or, I don't know, we'll try and get in contact with, these guys on social media. And I'm sure Reeno can hand over, because they're only allowed to, legally hand over, 150 lunch bags when they could be handing over 5,000. It's absolutely ridiculous. And, Habana's having to team up with Khaleesi and almost steal 50 of his slots because it's absolutely insane. So guys, if there is anyone watching this, sorry we're going slightly off piece, but we're all in this together. Get in contact with these guys and offer them, if you have the ability and you have an MPO that can help, then get involved, because they're only allowed, unbelievably, to give out a small amount of food. And we won't go into politics now. I avoid it every week. I can't do it. I'm not doing it. Reenen, we're moving forward now. Might be an eco bubble. What do you reckon is going to happen, mate?
Oh, that's a difficult one. I've got my own view on it, and I'm a positive person by nature, but I feel I have to give you a big reason why I think it's not going to work. And I hope I'm wrong, obviously. But you want to take a player out of his house and go put him in a place like, Bloemfontein is people are speaking about Bloemfontein. They're talking Cape Town, they're talking Nelspruit and Mbombela, which I actually think is a good call. But all right, be that as it may. You take a guy that's not been married a year. They want to start a family. It can get really personal. Take that guy out for 2.5, 3 months. Take him out. What's his wife going to say? What's that guy going to say? That's not going to work.
You're going to need your own room. You can't be sharing.
You've got a guy that's studying. You've got a guy that's studying. He's got to do exams. Okay? He's studying through the University of Stellenbosch. All right? He's studying economics degree through Stellenbosch. All right? He's due to sit exams in October. Now that guy needs to uproot and go off to Nelspruit for 2.5 months. It's his job. He's got no say in it. He has to do it. That's why. And the other thing is money. But all right, well, money. Okay. Problem is that's why I say. That's the reason I say it will not work. The reason I say it will work is the fact that these players will run through a brick wall to play rugby now. They will make it work. And that, I think, will overshadow the, no, not overshadow, it will outweigh the negatives. And that's why I think if the money can appear here, that's why I think it'll happen. That's my answer. Salman, how do you see it play out?
I think it's exactly like you mentioned. It starts getting a bit tricky if you for especially guys with kids and families, it's gonna get tricky going away from home for a very long time. Obviously, being isolated away from everyone else. I think it gets really tricky. I think, yeah, in that sense, I don't think it might work. But exactly as you said, I think guys are really desperate to start playing rugby. I think guys will pretty much do anything to start playing rugby again. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they actually decide on.
Reiner, how do you see it?
Look, I hate to reiterate or say what everyone else has said, but the reality is, for me and my wife, yes, we celebrated our 2-year wedding anniversary. We'll get over it. We only have a little dog to take care of, and we'll survive. To use Ruan Pino as an example, him and his wife have 3 kids. I think their oldest daughter is maybe 8, 9. Then they have a 5, 6-year-old, and then they have a very young one. Imagine leaving his wife for 2 months, 3 months, all on her own. I just don't think it's fair. And more to the point, there's no consistency anyway from my point of view. Someone can climb in the car, drive across the border to Nelspruit to go visit their family, but now you want to remove all of us from our family backgrounds or family environments and then put us into a hotel or something. But ultimately, as everyone has said, we all want to get back to earning full salaries. We want to get back to playing competitive rugby. There's a Springbok squad that must be selected, and guys want to gun for positions. Otherwise, they're just going to pick the people that have played all along. So for me, it all turns to gold, but it's all made better, the rugby environment within South Africa anyways, the moment we start playing rugby again. And so we need to do what we need to do to play rugby again. If that's 2 months in a bubble, then so be it.
Yeah, I think it's the way to. It's so hard because on a selfish level, as a rugby fan, obviously we just want to see everybody out there playing rugby again. We've been watching in New Zealand. I mean, the level of rugby has been fantastic. Australia not so, but you know, we watch it because we're starving for it. Oh, it's tough at times to watch that. It's tough. And the Premiership's back now, and it's just it's difficult to watch without any fans. Can you even start preparing to go into a stadium and be like the fans pick you up? You know, that close game with 10 minutes to go and you get the line out 5 meters out. Salman, it's all on your shoulders. You're going to take this ball, man. Like, how does that mindset work? Is it something you've even discussed? Is it something that psychologists are getting involved with you? I mean, those are the edges that all the top coaches talk about. And now you've got to try and negate that. Is it something that isn't in the discussion at the moment?
We haven't really discussed it, but in particular, but definitely I feel it's going to be a massive adjustment for all rugby players. I think the part of being a professional rugby player is being able to play in front of your fans. I guess that's the one thrill that you get every weekend, playing in front of a packed stadium. I mean, that's the energy and adrenaline that you at stages in the game you actually need. So it's going to be a massive adjustment, I think. Yeah. But within saying that, I still, to reiterate what Reiner said, guys are really desperate to play rugby. I think if we need to do that at the end of the day, I'm gonna vouch for that, and we start playing rugby. But it's going to be a massive adjustment.
Yeah. I mean, Rainer's nodding his head away there about the fans, especially. You're someone who loves connecting with the fans, aren't you? You love playing up to it and stuff like that. So they obviously they're really important to you, is what I'm getting at.
No, for sure. I've played rugby in empty stadiums before when with Varsity Cup 2016 there were riots, Feesmasville riots, and some of the games got disrupted with interruptions. So we ended up playing in Soccer City, and we played Marties in the pool rounds, and they gave us 50. I'm not saying that whatever, but then we ended up beating Marties in Stellenbosch in front of the crowd. And I'm not saying like we can't play without the crowd or anything. I just mean that I can feel, I was on the field for 80 minutes both times. You can feel the difference between playing a team like that. A hit goes in and the crowd goes, a line break and the crowd. That's what makes the hair stand on your arms. And like Salman says, that's what separates me playing rugby now from me having played rugby when I was 15 or whatever the case may be. So it's going to be weird, but ultimately rugby is still like 4 lines, a ball, 15 oaks, and a ref. So the fundamentals will be there, and you do what you need to do.
Yeah,
You need to also remember, Reiner, you now brought a memory up when you referred to beating Marties down in Stellenbosch. I think that Rassie Rasmus said, after he coached the Cheetahs to breaking a 29-year hell ride in 2005. In 2004, in the Currie Cup final at Loftus, which we lost, Rassie was captain, and it was his last game as player ever. He said before time he's retiring after that. And he captained the Cheetahs, and we lost to the Bulls in that final. But even though the scoreboard shows a comfortable win for them, they scored 2 tries right at the end. We had them. It was a close game. And Rassie said afterwards that he fed off the opposition fans. He fed off them. He took that energy and turned it around and used it to let him go on. And then the next year, when he coached the Cheetahs and then went back to Loftus and won the Currie Cup, he told the team in the week before, and Ollie Leroux also underlined that fact after the game. He said the whole team decided that it's bad there. It's a very tough place to go play. Everybody knows it. It's a fortress. But why not use that to your advantage and let it drive you on? So, with that as background, like you said, you went down to Stellenbosch, an equally tough place to go and play as a visiting player, if not even more difficult. And you got a result there. It must be tough in an empty stadium, but if I was a player, and I'm not, but if I was a player, I would tell myself, listen, this is not going to last forever. We do it now. We play this competition in front of nobody. We know our families are watching us on TV. We do it for them. We do it for ourselves. We do it for our team. Next year, this time, the crowds will be back. We all know that. So this is tough times never last, but tough people do. And we're all tough people. We're going to last.
There we go.
That's a fact.
And I must admit, I couldn't imagine going to the Darnay Craven on a Monday night and there not being a crowd there. It just wouldn't be right. It just wouldn't be right, especially with that music blaring out. Sound like an old man now, don't I? Right, a couple of questions coming in now. Joe Lyons, the money that was there simply isn't there for 99% of the top players. Now just the elite of the 1%ers are going to get a decent enough contract. The rest would be simply better staying put and hope this sorts itself out in 12 to 24 months. Interesting view on it. Reeno, any thoughts on that?
Is the question concerning guys leaving? I'm not.
Yeah. I think so. I think they're worried about the amount of money that's in South African rugby. But just to put some scope on that, I mean, there's obviously a lot of teams going through this in the Gallagher Premiership as well, and having to shift a lot of people out of the way. And certain people like Maro Toji are still doing incredibly well. So I think it's more. Are you better off staying here and hoping that the landscape changes again and we get back to full salaries and back playing? Or obviously neither of you took the 3-week exodus plan, shall we say, like some others, and you stayed put. Is that more for love of the game, or was that just a conscious decision?
I think what we must understand here is that fans are fans of rugby or fans of clubs very rarely, especially within the context of South Africa, are fans of individual players. So they don't want you to stay at the Cheetahs because it's good for you. They want you to stay because it's good for them. So, and whereas me, I can play rugby until I'm, let's say, 35 if I'm really fortunate. And then after that, I need to return and face the real world and get a job and do what I need to do. I'm be a father, hopefully. By then, I'm a husband. Many roles I need to fulfill. So I need to ultimately make decisions that's good for me and my family and our future. So if that was to take a deal in Japan, like we saw guys throwing zeros at Oaks, then sadly that's what I would have had to do. And if an opportunity presents itself elsewhere, it's something that my wife and I need to sit around the table, discuss what's our plan, then go to a coach, go to CEOs and discuss the way forward. I don't think it's as simple as, do you show loyalty to the brand? Do you show loyalty to South Africa, to the Springboks, or to whoever it may be? Ultimately, I am called on this earth to be a husband to my wife and to be a father to my children. So that's what I need to do.
Yeah, and I think, look, we've had high-profile players. Sorry to keep harking back to England, but like Dylan Hartley, we had a guy on called Neil Clark, who's an ex-Exeter Chiefs and an ex-hooker a couple of weeks back. He said, "There's no loyalty when it finishes. They don't give you a job at the end of it." So yeah, Salman, you're at the other end of that scale now, and we've seen it so many times. And I think clubs are starting to wise up that the younger players need advice from day one. They need guiding, financial acumen. Is that, you've got a very level-headed family with you. You're very level-headed, but is it something that clubs focus on now? Is it part of the rhetoric at the Stormers?
I think for majority of the unions, we're really fortunate to have a players' organization. I think the players' organization are doing some great work with players. They're giving us the opportunity to invest our monies, and they're making sure that there is a portion of our salaries going towards our pension fund. In that sense, I feel that's really great that they are doing. But at the same time, I think this is where your agent, and I feel for me in my position, my parents play a massive role. I think I'm really fortunate to have that in my life. But to answer your question, I feel that the players' organization are taking good strides in making sure that players are well looked after. And as Reeno mentioned, that sooner or later your rugby career is going to come to an end, and it's all about trying to provide for yourself and your family.
Yeah, cool. Joe, there was another question you wanted to bring up from Catherine, I believe. Is he still here? I think the question was, I think it's to all of us, to be honest with you. How do we feel that this Lions tour might not go ahead? It will go ahead. I'm being positive. Springbok South Africa. What do you guys think of the rumour? Let me jump in on that one first before the players do. I think that's Yuri Rue just covering all bases, if I'm honest. They wouldn't have let it go this far without, they're releasing tickets in the next few weeks. I think he's just heeding a warning, if possible. So I think it will go ahead. I hope it does. I've got my heart set on it.
A life lesson that I've learned, fortunately enough for me early in my life, is to totally wipe my behind on rumors, because you will go off your mind if you attach any value to that. Whether it goes ahead on time or not, we don't know. But I mean, it's a year from now, 11 months from now, it's going to happen. It's going to look totally different then, man. And like you said, they've already started selling tickets and started that whole process, and hotel bookings are happening from overseas. Blocks of tickets being purchased, all that. No, man, people like to be funny, and they're not funny here. They should stop. Lions players going to happen. It's going to happen. Just like that. It's going to happen.
Salmon, obviously, the Stormers are playing as well as, you never know, the Boks are playing them as well. And there's plenty of invitational and emerging Boks and SAA teams playing. Gents, the chance in any capacity to be involved in that tour, what would it mean?
Like you mentioned, I think it's obviously an opportunity of a lifetime. To just be involved in a capacity will be a dream come true. Hopefully we can both be part of that somehow. And hopefully tell our children one day that we've been part of a British and Irish Lions tour, and I obviously got high hopes that this tour actually happens, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna happen. Yeah.
Reeno?
I'm confident that the landscape as far as people's safety and so on will have shifted by then, and that it will go ahead. And yes, like someone says, man, you could have a 11-year-long career and miss the British and Irish Lions on either side. You could play 100 test matches for the Springboks and never see the British and Irish Lions. So for us, we are fortunate in that the timing is now. I'm bummed that the Cheetahs won't be playing then. So my chances are slimmer than, let's say, someone's. But really just excited with the prospect of it, that the best that the UK has to offer comes to play the best that we've got to offer. And that's, man, whether you play or not, it's worth buying a ticket and just having a watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. A guy like Frans Steyn, he came back to South Africa for the sole purpose of making himself available for selection for the test series if he gets selected against the British Irish Lions next year. To be able to say he played against the British Irish Lions twice. That is unheard of. It's 12 years, like Reeno said. 12 years, how long is that? That's very long. This is huge. This is massive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, gents, to wrap up, we like to put people on the spot on this show, and we say, like, we're in a funny time obviously now, but the next 2 years, you're in charge of World Rugby. What changes do you want to see in the next 2 years? The landscape is changing without you even being on the pitch at the moment. All sorts of Reeno's ready. He's prepped for this. This is supposed to be a surprise. What do we need to see change in the next 2 years? So, Reeno, you can wait. I'm going to go with Salman first.
No, Reeno, you go first, brother.
I feel like, when you spot for an exam and they ask the question you studied, this is that moment for me. I am, for me, a thing that gives me goosebumps is the concept that world champs are announced once every 4 years when you win the World Cup. But what if we have world club champs? So let's say the world rugby spectrum doesn't change at all. We have Super Rugby as it is, Top 14 as it is, Premiership as it is, Pro 14 as it is, and then the top 3 teams from all of those qualify and play in a Champion of Champions Cup of sorts. You play direct knockout. Everyone, you play all through to a final that's already predestined where it's going to be, or predetermined where it's going to be. People sell out tickets, man, like you can't believe, and it's just a joy, and you can call yourself champions of the world.
Yeah, I don't want to swear and use the word rugby league, but that world playoff they do every year is magnificent. It really is magnificent. It's unbelievable. Go on, Simon, you're in charge of World Rugby. What do you want to see change? Even if you could just change one thing that just irks you.
I think I would introduce something similar to the British and Irish Lions tour, but obviously just Southern Hemisphere teams. So I would select a team between the New Zealanders, Australians, and South Africans, and they should actually go on tour to the UK, and I feel that would be really interesting. Obviously, the contrast of rugby styles amongst South Africa, Australia, New Zealand is very different, but it'll be interesting to see how those players actually gel together.
Imagine that. One at Twickers, one at the Principality, one at...
And one in Paris.
Murrayfield. One at Murrayfield.
One at Murrayfield.
Fantastic.
But don't use Lansdowne Road. Use Croke Park. Oh my words! I'm getting tingle.
Imagine that.
They probably wouldn't let it. Right, there you go. Come to the Bulls, Reeno. There you go. He's not an agent, so don't worry about that. He's not going to help you out. And then finally, Catherine's just put a comment up there, which I'm going to have to disagree with. Maybe Southern Hemisphere lines would slaughter us. Thanks for that. Thanks for the confidence in our Northern Hemisphere rugby. Gents, thank you so much for your time tonight. It's been so entertaining. It's been a really good laugh. I can't wait till you're both in charge of World Rugby and we see that tour in a World Club Championship with stadiums. I'm going to go in and start the presentation now. I'll just put your name to it if that's all right. Reenen, thank you for your time. Amazing co-host, backed by popular demand, as always. And no doubt you will be a regular on this show anyway moving forward. So, guys, thank you again for your time this evening. It's so good. If you're ever in Paarl, you know where we are. So, yeah, let us know. And it would be great in the future to possibly have you on the show again. And I've got your number now, so I can stalk you. Guys, have a lovely evening. Reenen, thank you so much. Salman, Reeno, thank you so much for your time. Have a lovely evening, guys. Take care.